So welcome everyone to Portland Cocktail Week Distance Learning, weekdays at 2 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Fun fact, we don't say Eastern Standard Time or Pacific Standard Time. We say EDT or PST or Central, any of those mountain times. If you add the S, it implies daylight savings time, which is very confusing. So I learned that from my legal department the other day. Fun fact. So it's actually correct to say EDT or ET. Anyway, off topic. My name is Anne Louise Marquis. I'm the National Portfolio Brand Ambassador for Campari America. I cover all the brands and I get to work on this amazing portfolio. And part of what I get to do is connect our brands with our bartender community in a lot of interesting ways. And one of the things that I'm most passionate about is using our power and our platform and our ability to connect with people, our superpower as bartenders, and as people who connect so often with the public, if not so much right now in general, using that platform to find ways to broaden our community, to find inclusion. So I'm really excited because this is something I'm so passionate about, to welcome today Andra, aka AJ Johnson, to present her class today. We are so excited to have her here. I have all these notes on you and now they're not showing up. Oh no, I have all my notes. I just want my notes. Great. So just to intro again myself, I'm Anne Louise. My pronouns are she, her. I am a cis, mostly hetero. I don't know. It's a fluid space. Identify as female. She, her are my pronouns. And I am currently in California. Very excited to welcome AJ Andra to our talk today. Andra Johnson. She is a partner and beverage director for Serenata and Zumo. She is co-founder of DMV Black Restaurant Week. If you are not familiar, DMV stands for DC, Maryland, and Virginia, not the place where you register your car. She's founder of White Plates, Black Faces, and founder and program organizer for Back to Black Pop-Up. So Andra, thank you so much for joining us today. Take yourself off mute. Oh, she's off mute. And give us a little bit more intro to who you are and what we're going to talk about today.
So Anne Louise, thank you so much. Perfect intro, I promise. Notes or no notes, that was absolutely perfect. Again, my name is AJ. I think most of you all sort of know me as that. If you follow me on Facebook, and if we're friends on Facebook, you know me as Andra Lynn. I am White Plates, Black Faces on Instagram. And yes, I am involved in a lot of passion projects. D&B Black Restaurant Week was a passion project. Back to Black Cocktail Pop-Up was a passion project. And I think a lot of my culinary sort of path led me to wanting to tell these kinds of stories and really try to uplift voices with me. I've had some successes. I've definitely had some hardships. But I think at the end of the day, the way that I've been able to find success in my path and where I'm at right now is really just by trying to be as authentic as possible and not shy away from hard conversations or standing up for things that I believe in. And so today, thanks to Campari Academy, thanks to Portland Cocktail Week, I am able to talk to everybody today about how I really was able to create and use my space and use my voice and my platform for change. And so, Anne Louise, again, I thank you for being here with me and being sort of my catalyst. I want to sort of just start by prefacing this conversation with the fact that, you know, I know that this is a hard time. COVID-19 hit us all in a it kind of like knocked our knees out, right? Like it was 2020. We're gearing up for an entire new decade. Screw a new year. It was an entire decade, right? We were like, okay, yeah, this is where it's at. We're going to make some changes. We're going to do the dopest things we can possibly do. I opened Serenata here in La Cosecha on October 10th, 2019. And so it was one of those things, like I went to my business partner's wedding in March. I got back on March 11th. By March 15th, we were closed. And it kind of seemed like a dead end. And I think that's how it felt for a lot of people. And you saw the industry definitely bind together in a way that was nice to see. And then things, obviously, from a country standpoint, started to fall apart. The unfortunate and really sort of devastating things that happened to the Black community, the immigrant situation that we have in this country, where they're being targeted and not given benefits and things like that. The people that were really, really hurting in a system that was already broken is then now even further destroyed by the lack of economic development and things like that. And so it takes a lot not to break from that, but also as an operator, it takes a lot to step outside of your business and say, I want to do something about this. I think talking to a lot of people, I found that COVID made people not want to go down and be on the front line. People were scared, right?
And understandably,
understandably.
And totally fair. Like that's totally fair. It's a really scary thing.
Yes.
Yes.
And being in that close proximity with people really sort of, I think it deterred a lot of people from going down and feeling like they were a part of the movement. And at the end of the day, yes, being on the front lines is definitely a powerful form of activism. And I applaud anybody that's going down and doing those things because we need it. Not only does the Black community and other marginalized communities deserve this kind of presence, it's necessary for change. However, there are several lanes, and I think I personally felt helpless. I felt like I had to be here to protect my business. When things were being looted and things like that, I was taking down the bottles off my shelf, making sure those were protected. Does it matter if it happens? It happens, right? It's a form of resistance, I understand. But I think a lot of what I was scared of was, am I representing my business and representing who I am and still sticking true to the things that I believe in? And how am I doing that if I'm not there in solidarity with everybody else? And that's sort of what sparked Back to Black for me. And though I've done a lot of different projects and programming and things like that are based in bringing new voices, Black voices, brown voices to light, we also have to remember that activism has several lanes, right? And so if you can find a way to put your talents to use, put your space to use, put your resources to use, you can make a difference, okay? So go ahead.
I was gonna say, so I have this deep problem with capitalism, right?
Okay.
Like this, right? And it's intense, and it's a duality, because I live in a capitalist society, I work in a capitalist society, and I work for a company, a corporation. And yet I talk about this a lot. Like, capitalism doesn't really care about you. And it doesn't care about, or like about me, not about you, about us. And that in order to work, and then like, yes, there's a lot of conversations and there's a lot of things to do around this, but one of the ways to work with capitalism is to make a business case or use capitalism to further your message. So I that's what I see, and I see this going. And so like what you're saying is using these structures, this idea of a business, to then do more with that, or the idea of an event or a program that you can use kind of these tools to then turn around and use for your own good. Yeah. So how do you start to do that? Like, a lot of people I notice have a million ideas or like a lot of passion. Like, I really want to do this, but then they get really tripped up in the process of actually bringing something to life. Yeah. So how do you start that process? And how would you sort of help someone like just begin this journey of creating change through your platform, like what you're saying?
No worries. So I think if we head to that first slide, right? That first slide is all about making a change. At this point, right? Something has sparked something in you that makes you so unnerved and so on edge that you can't focus, you can't sleep, you can't eat, you find yourself talking about it. in different platforms. You know, it really
exhausting
does, right?
everyone in your family, everyone in your circle. Yes.
Exactly. Like there comes a point where things happen that so affect your everyday from a personal level that you feel like you have to do something. And that doesn't have to necessarily be something that directly affects you as a human being, right? There are numerous causes that people can speak out against and be for that don't necessarily represent them or how they identify themselves, right? We're all human beings. And when you feel that empathy, when you feel that human connection towards a cause or towards people, there can always be something done to change that, right? And so I think for me, and we will use Back to Black pop-up because we just finished our first pop-up on June 27th and June 28th, right? We raised $11,000.
You made anything happen during this time, which is like, besides like wearing pajamas is an accomplishment. Like I can't get anything done right now. This is amazing.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. So we'll use that as an example throughout this entire talk. But obviously, whatever I need to sprinkle other things in from other programs, I will. So you want to make a change. For me, I wanted to make a change when I got a phone call from one of my best friends. And we grew up together. She has 2 small kids. She's a single mother. And she calls me and says, I am so scared. I need something to change for my kids. And I didn't realize it was going to stick with me so hard. Until 3 hours later, I was making phone calls, right?
Yeah.
But I had to sort of figure out what I could do, because she said, I just need you to do something. And I think a lot of times we get caught up in, I have to do something, but we don't know what to do. We may not have the funds, we may not have the access, we may not have the resources to push things forward, or have the connections to push things forward. But there are steps that we can definitely take. So in terms of creating programming within your bars and your restaurants, or even with your friends at this point, right? Because we're doing things grassroots level right now.
Yeah, I would even say like just your Facebook profile or your Instagram profile. It doesn't need to be like, even if you don't have the resources with a business, you can do things that have a lot of impact in a really small space with very little resources to do it.
100%. So yeah. I want people to understand, like, there is definitely a thought process that happens, but when I sit here and explain all this entire module, I am very much activate. And I had to, and we will touch on the network tree, I had to call people that could keep me focused and push the mission forward. Because if it was all push, things were going to happen too fast. You had to stop and ask yourself very, very serious questions first, right? So the first one,
I'm so sorry. Sorry. So for me, I think what, like, this whole beginning is what I call like finding the why.
Yes.
Like, what is your why? Mm-hmm. And it doesn't need to be anyone else's why. It could be Black Lives Matter, but it could also, to you specifically, could be making sure that those kids, and like you hold on to those kids as like the space the world that you want them to grow up in.
Exactly.
And that if that's the thing that propels you, that's your personal thing, and you run with it. And then maybe you don't even talk about that little why, you talk about the larger issue, but you know the core of what's feeding you, and that will keep you going. Sorry. Okay. So I call that like the why.
No, exactly. Yeah. So what is your cause, right? What is your cause? Why is this your cause? Okay. What is it about this cause, right? That really just motivates you to want to do something. You have to ask yourself that every single time, because that is the mission throughout the entire programming. Okay. Why does it need your community's immediate attention? And when I say community, I don't necessarily mean hospitality. Right? We call on our friends and our colleagues to help us and be brothers in arms and sisters in arms in this. But when we're talking about creating products and creating experiences, we are talking about the larger community. That is your regulars. That is the neighborhood that your bar is in or your restaurant is in. That is, the school that's down the street from where you are. That is the daycare that's there. That are the small businesses that are there. Why does your community need this particular action right now? Okay. And then why is it important that you, as a hospitality professional, take this on? And I always have to stop myself and ask, why does it have to be me? Why do I have to do this? because there are silent ways of doing this. I could just take my tip money and give to some organization. I could just, ask guests to donate to a cause, and then that be it. But why is it important that you, in what you do and what your bar, your restaurant stands for, why is this a pillar of what you all actually embody? All right.
It's as a sponsor, as someone who reviews applications and reviews, like, has these conversations with people who call me, like, after 3 nights of not sleeping and are so excited about their idea. This is super important and super helpful, so that when I go, why are you doing, like, why can't you let someone else do this? Why are you the person? If you've thought through all this stuff, then you're able to very clearly explain to me very quickly, and it helps me then be able to go get the money. Yes. So this stuff is really vital personal work to do in finding this. And so glad you're talking about it. So, okay, as a sponsor of things, I'm really grateful. So sorry, go back to your deck.
And I'm gonna finish that last point, because this last point is really important, but then I'm gonna get back to that only because I always emphasize to all my staff, to anybody that I've ever mentored, to anybody, you have to write everything down. I understand that a lot of us are mental thinkers. I understand that a lot of us are visual thinkers. But when you write things down, it becomes muscle memory, and then it becomes indoctrinated in you. Because you're thinking it, you're writing it, you're seeing it, you're believing it, and pushing that forward. When you're
communicating
yourself, exactly.
Yes.
And when you get yourself to believe it and say it strongly and in the terms that you want it, you can then convey that to somebody else to be able to get funding and things like that for your programming. And we will touch that 100%. So I appreciate that, because that is something from a brand standpoint, I think a lot of us have trouble or think that it is much harder than it is when we're just not communicating properly. That's totally fair. And the last point here on, so you want to make a change, and I urge everybody, this should actually be in bold, black, like big, should probably be the heading of this. What organizations are promoting your cause? And second to that, what kind of help would benefit them the most? Okay. So my mother actually was the senior vice president and general counsel for Planned Parenthood, right? And her whole thing, a lot of big organizations and a lot of bars and restaurants and this and that, all right, we're going to do a fundraiser supporting Planned Parenthood, this and the third. That's great. Hey, we're going to collect this. Hey, all those things are fantastic. I would urge you all. I did this. I put together Back to Black Pop-Up DC with my organizers in about 3.5 weeks. But we didn't have a whole lot of time to reach out to each and every single organization, because we were doing 7 different organizations. But if you have the time, reach out to your charity or organizations first. Research who is actually on the front lines, already doing this work, who you can help. Because you can raise all this money, but if it doesn't go anywhere, you're not, what are you personally going to then do to put all this money into action, or put all these soup cans to work, or whatever the case may be? Figure out who you're donating to and what they need the most. It may not be money right now. It may be that they need suits for homeless people that need to get jobs, or hey, we would love if you could just connect us with a barber, or hey, we would love if you could give us pre-packaged meals and use that money towards that, instead of just giving us straight money. And I think it was Ashton Berry actually who told me, I asked her about a different kind of programming I was looking to do during COVID-19 to help out some bartenders and people like that who weren't eligible for unemployment benefits. And I was like, hey, like, what should I do? And she's like, first of all, yes, this is great, but you need to ask them first and foremost what they need.
I cannot emphasize this enough. Oh, shoot, I cut out. I cut out. I cannot, like, everyone listen to Andra right now. Like, everyone listen to Ashton via Andra. Like,
yeah,
connect with the not-for-profit before you start to work for them. Because also, they have resources they can support you with, so they can get their people involved in the project.
Yes.
Okay, I'm done.
Yes. I mean, no, you're fine. It was one of those things that seemed so simple. And at first I'm like, oh my God, that was like so not helpful. And then I was like, wait, That's actually the most helpful thing, because if I just reach out to people who need things, they'll tell me exactly what they need, right? It just so happens that right now, yes, financial support is 100% what a lot of these organizations need. But at the end of the day, if it is food and you have a restaurant and you can do some sort of prepackaged meal or give resources or open up as a pantry like Coconut Club did, and how Adam just sort of like transformed his entire business, those things are so much more helpful. And also you take out this issue of this virtue signaling thing. Like you just sort of erase that, because what you think is helping may not always be helping. So that is my like, boom, make sure that they know what is happening and make sure that you're giving them what they need. That's it. That's what I got for that one.
That's great. Okay. That's super important, because if you do, this is the thing, is like, I feel like so often that foundational work isn't done. And so then you can't build on it in a meaningful or strong way, because if you put too much on top of it and you don't have that structure, it's gonna implode. And I've seen it happen over and over and over again. So having your why, having your partner and your charity partner, and sorry, not for profit. I'm trying not to use the word charity right now. Like I'm trying to take that out of my vocabulary because I don't like it. So finding your not for profit, your organization that you're going to work with, you're building a structure, and then that is such a great way to move into the next phase. So let's talk. Okay, so you've talked about, so you have this desire. Now what do you do?
Now what do we do? Oh man, now we have to organize ourselves, which I am so bad at. I am the worst. Okay.
Well, this is where teamwork really pays off.
This is where teamwork pays off. Now, I do hold these 4 points for myself, because in my brain, these make sense, right? I know what I have to do at the beginning, and I know what I have to do to get to the finish line. However, it takes so many people and so many hands and so many minds to get it all the way from empower to activate. You may feel this, right? But it takes so much more to get it there and do it the right way, right? And it all depends on what you're trying to do. Now, I will say, before we move to the next slide, the one thing that has changed in the way that we see these fundraisers, cocktail pop-ups, food pop-ups that are, and people that are organizing the communities in this way, we've got to think differently on how these things work, right? That's from packaging, that's from pickup, that's from making sure that everybody's safe right now. It's not just crowding around the bar, it's not just how much money can I put down on XYZ. It is actually extremely thoughtful in the way that these things need to be organized in order to keep yourself, your staff, and your organizers and your volunteers safe, and also the consumer safe. And so those are different pitfalls and things like that we will get into. But doing a cocktail pop-up in a time like right now was, in hindsight, the best idea I've ever had. Probably when I was doing it, I think a lot of people thought I was crazy. Because we can't sit at a bar right now. We can't even stand around a bar right now. And it was difficult to try to get people engaged in that. And so to stay on track, it was imperative that I stuck to these 4 pillars, because I had to make sure that I was amping it up just that little bit, because it's that much more engagement. It's that much more making people enticed about what's happening. It's that much more about people getting excited about giving away their money to good people.
So how did that pop-up work? Because we're in the middle of COVID. There's so much upheaval. There's so much unknown. How did you do that?
By a whole bunch of angels. No, I did it by sticking true to what I wanted to do and sticking true to the mission of what was stated. We are a cocktail pop-up that is here to elevate the voices of our storytellers, to put out and highlight and showcase the talents of Black bartenders, and to give that experience and tell those stories and share those stories with our consumers. We are a part of this community, no matter what we want to do, right? We are a part of this community, and there are things that we aren't able to do in the bar industry as easily as we think we can, right? Like trying to give money to a school is difficult. You can't do that when you're selling alcohol, right? Those kind of things can't happen, but there are ways. For me, in this particular iteration, let me not say there are ways. In this particular iteration, the way that I saw this coming into fruition was really having people trust the vision and trust the people I had standing with me, right? You're giving your money away, and it might not be to causes that you thought ever existed. Some of these charities I had never even heard of, right? But are doing amazing work in the community. And as long as you can get people excited, right? Like actually excited about giving and being 100% a part of the community, that's what Back to Black was about.
So was it a physical pop-up? Like people came and got a drink and like hung out, or did they just pick up drinks to go and took them home? Or like, how did you, like, I'm literally asking nuts and we'll get more to nuts and bolts in a second.
Yeah.
I'm trying to understand how you did a pop-up in the middle of COVID.
No, so let's run through that. So as far as I knew, we were supposed to be in phase 1 in DC until summertime was over. Phase 1, I'm in a 1,000 person capacity market, right? It's tables at the front.
Mm-hmm.
You order online, we put your bag up top, and you go. Now we had run Serenata as a bar. We had run 3-4 other pop-ups before then, and that's sort of how we did it. We did a donut pop-up with Paolo Velez.
So it was to go.
Yeah, everything to go.
Just to be clear, like when we say pop-up, it means like this kind of micro business or micro fundraiser, but it's all to go, which is so
Exactly.
smart. Okay,
yeah.
Cool.
So I'm thinking for Back to Black, we have to do it the same exact way. Everything in bagged in our flask that we do here at Serenata. We were doing, okay, names on everything, gloves with everything, pass it off. You can sign your name on the board, and then you got to go.
What does sign your name on the board mean?
So we had merchandise, which again, we'll talk about, but we had merchandise printed. So we have this huge 24 by 36 poster. I think it was in that first slide there, that people could sign, right? So cool. And it's just another way to add that touch of community, right? And sort of commemorate our first pop-up and the people that made it happen and that gave. And so that was sort of the end of it, right? We're like, oh, we should do a testimonial booth. Where are we going to put it if you can't be inside the market?
Right.
Oh, we want to have a DJ. Where are we going to put them if we can't be inside the market? Do we have to pull out or do permits? Can we change the music at the market? Can we even have this many people outside?
Right.
A week and a half before the pop-up, Mayor Bowser goes to phase 2. We're opening the inside of the market. And so it changed the entire...
Okay, let's get to that when we talk about Activate, because I kind of want to tease how you adjusted. So you have a desire. You found you're going to collaborate. You're going to formulate your thoughts. You're going to get your pitch together, and then we're going to move into mobilizing.
Yes.
Can you talk through those steps? I think it's your 3rd or 4th slide.
For sure.
Cool.
And sorry, Leo, if you could, while I'm talking through mobilize, can we just pop up the Empower really quickly? Because I just want to make sure that people just have these notes. Collaboration is 100% important. Call your people. The network tree is capitalized because the network tree is the most important resource that you have, okay? Those are the people that have your back, right? Those are the people who believe in you as a human. Those are the people that will support you through these. They are also people that have the skills to get this done, right? They could be your best friend in the world, but if they can't help you mobilize and if they can't help you activate this, then they're not a call that needs to be made. And I just want to make sure that everybody knows that everybody loves to work with their friends, but sometimes it doesn't work out that way, right? And then the other point in the Empower point is that when we say like write things down and be clear about your communication with this in terms of talking with brands and talking with personal backers and things like that, write it down. Empower. That is to empower yourself to be confident enough to ask for help. I am the worst with that. I literally financed most of Back to Black by myself, outside of one personal backer and a lot of help from a product standpoint. I did it, and I should have asked for help, and I didn't. And it's okay, because this is something that I was so passionate about, but I wouldn't have done this if I couldn't.
Okay, I'm gonna jump in here. I'm gonna jump in here with you and just like 100% agree and support what you're saying. And if anyone's listening to this, like, please hear what she's saying. This is super key, and that this kind of work is not a personal project. It is a team effort. And if your skill is not compiling the pitch deck, that's okay, but find your person who can do that for you and do that with you. Because this is not all on you. And I see so many people get crushed, like physically, emotionally, spiritually, and financially, by taking on a project completely on their own. Because at the end of the day, this isn't about you. This is about who you're serving. So I love that you're giving this advice and speaking from your personal experience of this, because this is so key. And we would just watch it happen over and over and over again. So it's so important.
Sorry, it looks like we got, no, you were good, but I think actually AJ just had maybe a connection issue.
Did she
and I'm sure she would,
me?
No, it's good. Everything is good. She'll be back, I'm
me.
sure, in a second. This is
okay,
this is what 2020 looks like.
So are we still live?
We're still live,
okay,
but
great. So
we just lost AJ for a moment.
I'm just going to keep supporting what AJ said, because I think it's so key, and that I think that we see so much when people start with an idea and they take it on themselves. And I just really want anyone listening to feel empowered to ask for help in the spaces that you are not strong. Like, I know that I hate PowerPoint decks, but my coworker is really good at them. And so, like, not to put the labor on her, but to share work. So sometimes, like, I'll do a draft and she'll revise it, or I'll put notes and then she'll build it out, because that's a language that she's native to that I'm just not. I never went to school for this stuff. So sometimes and I let myself off the hook for that. Like, it's not necessarily the language I'm native to, so that's okay. But find people that are, and find people that can help you, even if it's 10 minutes or 20 minutes or an hour of their time, to look over something. Someone sent me a deck the other day and said, just look at this from a sponsor's perspective. What else would you want to see on here? They didn't ask me for money. It wasn't a pitch. It was just, please, like, give us your input. And I sent them back a few notes of, like, here's what would be helpful to have. So, and that was great. And they took the advice and they ran with it. So as you are working on this kind of cause-based thing that you're passionate about, remember to bring in people. The whole idea is to recruit support. And I love that that's what Andra's talking about, that, and also talking about the pitfalls of not doing that. Because this is usually, you're not getting paid for it. So you want to get people involved to support you and help you, and you drive the vision, you drive the mission, but you're not expected to do all the work yourself. And, you give people an opportunity to find meaning for themselves through supporting the work. So you asking people for help is actually an opportunity for them to have meaning, to find experience and enjoy this. Oh, Andra, you're back. I was just killing time and giving some of my insights around this idea that you were saying around enrolling other people to help. I don't know if she can hear me, but enrolling other people to help. Okay, great, cool. Take it back.
Oh my God. I'm not really sure what happened there. It just literally stopped, but that is okay.
Happens all the time.
Make it work.
Literally all the time. It's 2020. So sorry. So you were talking, so we're going to move into the mobilize, but you were just talking about the need to, like, get support, ask for help, get financial backers. Don't spend all your own money, even if you feel passionate, like, because I was saying, because it's an opportunity to include people to offer meaning for them.
And that was something that I didn't realize until I asked one personal backer. And I will say, big up to Kevin Billings. He has supported me for years at this point. We're talking about like 6 or 7 years. He has been a rock for me. And if there's projects that I want to do, it literally is a phone call. But not only did he give, he came and he was a volunteer, and he was a part of the movement. And it just was so good to see, because he really, I mean, he wanted to be a part of the conversation. But again, I mean, we're talking about a big guy, a Navy guy, a white guy that doesn't necessarily know how to start the conversation, but wants to be a part of it. And honestly, and purely, genuinely be a part of it, which was nice to see. Because you don't see that a whole lot.
And it's important to show that, and to show that, like, I think that's so great. I mean, like that you have that relationship and you have this support and this person. It's so cool. So, okay. So as you move into, are you holding your phone with your hand?
I am, but I'm going to move it.
Can you like set it down just so I can focus on you? Because you're getting a little bit wobbly. Oh yeah, that's way better. Oh yes. Yes. I love that.
How about that? Hold up. Let's pull this in closer.
Oh,
there you go.
Thank you for the product placement. It's not totally necessary, but I appreciate it. Okay, so moving into the mobilize part, because I want to keep us on schedule and keep us on time, because I feel like we could talk about this all day.
All day.
How the nuts and bolts of actually making this thing happen. How do you do it?
Organize your organizers. Everybody has a job. Give them a job, even if that means that how you place yourself may not be in the forefront of everything. You have to be able to recognize where everybody's strengths are at. So for us, I mean, in terms of constructing the platforms and getting the word out, that was 100%, for the first one anyway, talking to our PR people, getting Maru, getting Ringlet involved, and making sure that the media outlets had some semblance of an idea of what we were doing. The second part of that was actually creating an IG page for this. There is something to be said about social media. I am just kind of learning about that right now, and it is extremely important to just, put a picture of yourself up here or there, put the events that you're doing up here or there. But I felt for this, I wanted to do this not as an extension of programming that I already do, but as its own standalone project. And so by creating a platform for it in and of itself, we were able to generate traffic just for that and understand the demand and what we needed to put forth just for this. We were also able to create a visual for everyone, all right? And so as of right now, our IG page, we're at 4 weeks right now, almost 5 weeks, we're at 1,000 followers, which doesn't mean much, but for something that happened for 2 days, and will continue to keep growing, for us, that's fantastic, because that's 1,000 people that we didn't have plugged in before, but are now plugged in. So make sure that you're reaching out and really getting the ball rolling, because once you see your programming in print, it literally makes it real for you in that moment. There's no turning back, okay? That's when the wheels start really, really, really going. Reach out to media outlets. I mean, as food and hospitality professionals, reach out to the people that have written about you before, that have frequented your restaurants, bloggers that have come in, things like that. Make sure that you're tagging them in your posts, all that good stuff. Again, I'm not the social media expert in the world. Lorena Prada does our social media, and she's absolutely fantastic about it. What I will say is that we did create a very visually stunning presence for our feed that fits with our messaging. And that is also something that you can dive into when you're creating the look of your programming. And then logistics. I would say right now, one of the biggest things for us was sort of figuring out this go round how we're going to do our ordering. The first time we had support, Serenata helped us out, and we were able to use the top ordering system and things like that. This time we're switching the venue. So now we've ordered square readers. We've got a website set up. We just want to make sure that we're directing all of the people to the right places at the right time, because that is what's going to keep driving the momentum for the pop-up. So that's your mobilization factor. It's really getting the word out and getting the wheels turning, because once it's out there, the wheels will keep pushing itself as long as you're creating content.
So let me jump in here and just reinforce what you're saying. A social media presence is really important, both for getting people to participate and also to get them to donate and to recruit. And to have a space, like you said, like, I love that you said, I didn't do this, somebody else did it. Some people are really good at social media and like, they want to help. So have them help, like have them do it. Say like, hey, I want to empower you to enroll you to do our social media. It's a huge gift to do that. And it lets people feel like they're a part of it. Both from the person who's helping you, but also the people that are finding you online. There's a legitimacy to it. It's not just like a one-off thing. Like this has power to it. There's content you can learn. It becomes a space where you're educating, where you're enrolling and engaging people, where you're highlighting and boosting the voices of other people. So having, if you can, that's super key. I have this whole thing with my boyfriend where he wouldn't do social media. And then this year he's like, oh, social media is really helpful. Yes, everyone's isolated and it's free.
It is free. That is the big one. That is the big one. And if it's done right, it really does drive curiosity, it drives business, it drives the conversation, and it also pushes the mission forward. At the end of the day, if people are taking pictures and retweeting and resharing and tagging you and things like that, that's one person and then their network, and then another person and then their network. And so it creates the conversation around what you're doing without you having to start.
It also, and it models your values. And that's really key. And we talked about this a lot on our call, you and me, around the importance of modeling the values, so that people can see it and realize and learn from it and feel comfortable modeling their values. Okay, so so you've worked through this mobilizing. Are you ready to move on to activate?
We're gonna create first, actually, and I had a conversation with my partner last night. We actually switched the process of this, and for me, I had my reasoning for that. She had her reasonings for it, but I think actually create here in the way that we're gonna talk about it today is about actually creating what you're going to sell, right? Or what you're going to put forth to the market. So for Back to Black, we had four different storytellers that were bartenders. We had one storyteller that was a chef. And so we then have to get all the product ready to go for those people. We've got to figure out how to get everybody in the same place. We've got to figure out how to bash everything, get it into the bags, make sure the garnishes fit. We had twine and a hole puncher and printing errors and all these things. I had them sign 100 different all of their statements that were tied to the back of their cocktail bags. I had them sign each and every one by hand. I didn't photocopy those. They went ahead and signed those to create a little bit more authenticity. So you do have to plan ahead and create prep days, especially if you're going to do food, especially if you're going to do cocktails in terms of this. You have to set aside time to really figure out what your packaging is going to be, what kind of, what actually works and what is feasible. We had a cocktail that had a pipette from Capri. I love her to death, but the pipettes were a little bit hard to navigate. They were a little bit hard to navigate, but we worked it out. We figured it out. But it was one of those things where we had to pivot and make adjustments, And that's why in the creation process, it really is about what is everything going to look like and what are the tangible things that people are going to be taking with them. All right. So in terms of like merchandise design, like taking Lorena's logo with the redacted lines and putting them onto the hats, putting them onto the pins. Really just being able to take care of the presentation and making sure that it looks good and it's worth the money and all these things. Like obviously it's for charity, but at the end of the day, you still want it to be a quality product. It can't just be thrown together. And so that takes, it takes a good amount of time. I think I had everybody here, we prepped for a week getting all these things together. We did 450 cocktails.
Damn. So I call this the win-win-win. You want everyone involved, and ideally, like in this kind of situation, you want everyone involved to feel like they got the best part of the deal.
Yeah.
So you want the organizers to feel like they had so much fun and had such a good time and feel so rewarded by what they raised and how they did it. You want the people who participated to feel like your volunteers, to feel like they really contributed and they had such a good time and they felt met in some way, like they got to bring their vision to life, or they got to contribute in a way that felt meaningful, or they got to, like, whatever that thing is. And then you want the people who actually bought the drink or participated or paid the ticket price to feel like they got something that was way better than what maybe they paid for. So, wow, this is like a really good cocktail. And, you know, and my money went to this thing I care about. So it wasn't like, oh, I got this like kind of crappy thing that it wasn't that great. Like I got this thing that's just, I would have paid for this anyway. And the money went to this thing. So building in those win-win-wins so that everyone feels psyched that they were part of it versus everyone feeling super drained and kind of annoyed.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that I was having a little bit of maybe I guess in this situation uses imposter syndrome, because like we have these beautiful pictures, right? Like absolutely, if you go through our feed, our cocktails look absolutely amazing, and if we could make them for you one by one, just like any other cocktail pop-up, that's how they would have come out. And then it's like, holy crap, I'm gonna get a bag. This is what it's gonna be. And so it was like, all right, guys, we are just gonna cross over. We just have to. They have to be the best cocktails ever in the history of life, because all these pictures that made everybody salivate, it was like, all right, here's your bag of cocktail. So, you know, making sure that your ingredient list is taken care of, making sure that your what's in it and the instructions for how to serve it and the glassware and all these things, giving that model of how it's supposed to be if we could do this. But I you know what, it honestly, it translated perfectly fine. I think I was probably the only one that was like, this might be a little bit of like false advertising, I'm not gonna lie. But we made it work.
And you're gonna have that imposter syndrome. You're gonna have it all the time, and you just gotta power through. Like you, me, like I have imposter syndrome, like, and you know, and I do this stuff all the time, and I'm still like, I don't know, right? Is this good enough? Like, just keep going.
Yep. And we did it. And I mean, again, I'm so proud of our team. But then sourcing and ordering materials, it's just, I mean, it's a dot, it's a blip in this, right? But it is so super important for us as Back to Black. The one mission that I wanted to stay true to was that these cocktails, I asked the bartenders to give me the exact brands that they wanted. Most of the time when people do happy hour events or cocktail events or want to donate money to something or whatever, we say, like, brands say, hey, let me hop in there. We'll go ahead and donate some product and blah, 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 and make something with our products. This was the exact opposite. I didn't call anybody until I knew what the bartenders needed, right?
That's great.
Because I want it to be on their terms.
Yeah.
Okay. Obviously, we want to get as much help as we can, right? But I think at that point, that's where you're bringing in your financial support, right? And having that backing. If you do need to pay for it, pay for it. But the authenticity of your pop-up, the authenticity of your message, the authenticity of your programming is what is going to set you apart and what can keep these kind of things going even through COVID, right?
Yeah.
It's got to be real.
As a sponsor, I'll say product is pretty easy. So product we can get for you usually as a sponsor, as long as you're in alignment with like, is the charity like not for children or recovery? Are you connected to a 501c3? Are you like, is this event closed to only people over 21? Like, as long as you can check those boxes, product is pretty straightforward. So even if you want to give your bartenders the freedom to work with anything, you can always say, we have a great relationship with X supplier, like Campari America, for example. If you can use their products, it will be easier, but also please find the freedom in what you're going to do.
Exactly.
I think that's so great, because then they feel really empowered to like do their own thing.
100%.
I love that.
And then we move to activate, right? It's the day of. So the day of, it is literally your dream turned into reality. Now, don't do what I do. Get some sleep the night before, okay? I never sleep before an event. Before the RR Buoy cocktail competition, I'm up all night. Before the first, day of D&B Black Restaurant Week for our week, I'm up all night. For this, I stayed here at La Cosecha and I just worked through the night trying to figure out how to plan my logistics for the day. Now, get yourself some volunteers if you need them, right? We could have probably done without them, but obviously this is a community event, and if people are willing to help, never turn away good help. Never turn away good help. And so make sure that you have a plan for managing and organizing your volunteers. specific guidelines and tasks for them to do, right? Make sure that you're organizing your flow, right? The first day of Back to Black, we had 150 orders and all between 1 p.m. and 4 p.m. And so it was really about having those things ready and staggered and getting the swag in, then getting the brownies in. Then if somebody didn't order food, making sure that they had the chope or the chancha in their bag so that we were still within the legal constraints of serving alcohol to go. And so you really just want to take, the probably 2 days prior to your event and then up until, because sometimes you will need to pivot to make sure that your event is seamless, right? If it's a staggered pickup, it's a staggered pickup, and I always suggest that, especially for right now, because you don't have to worry about overcapacity, you don't have to worry about people crowding around, but make sure that you keep on schedule. You don't have people waiting, and it's a very fine line and a very difficult balance to hit sometimes, but be as accommodating as possible. We are in the hospitality industry, and just make sure that the day flows smoothly. That's it. That's it.
I mean, so I have this amazing coworker, and we joke that like she is the person who has 10 contingency plans. Like she always, like she is so good at just being like, I've gamed this out, and like if this goes wrong, we're gonna do this, and if this goes wrong, like she does that. And then I'm really good at like, I don't like having contingency plans, but I'm really good in the moment. So we work really well together. Because then like, so if you have teammates, like I think gaming out a couple of like, okay, if the computer goes down, here's what we're going to do. If if everyone shows up at once, here's how we're going to stagger them. Like we're going to put X's out on the sidewalk and we're just going to have everyone wait. And then we're going to make little mini samples and deliver them. Like just to have a couple ideas of things that might happen. And also I find if you game them out, then they don't happen. If you don't game them out, then they definitely happen.
Everything happens.
Everything. If you don't plan, it will all go wrong. If you plan, then definitely everything like usually kind of comes in, then you're ready for it.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
100%.
I love that.
So
and also definitely sleep. Sleep the night before. Like self-care is protest. Self-care is radical. Like, yes. Bring your best self.
Oh man.
I did day of service. Our first day of service, I did literally, not joking, 3 days after having surgery, 3 days after having emergency appendectomy in a different state. And I was so, now I wish I could like take my 33-year-old self and like just sit her down and be like, no, other people can help you. But I like didn't get it. And so I think we're probably the same way in this respect where we're like, no, I have to do it. I get it, man. Like it's a lot. We're learning.
It's a learning curve. Honestly,
if you've had surgery the day before, don't go. Someone will cover for you.
Exactly.
Learn from my mistakes.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, sorry. I want to keep you going. So
no, it's all good.
Okay, so I think are we into create now?
No. We did create.
Oh, we did create.
We've already made our product. Everything was ready to go.
We flipped it. Okay, cool. Just
Day
making sure.
It's about your setup. That was about organizing your flow, making sure that everything is smooth for everybody, right? Managing and organizing your volunteers, making sure that they know what to do so that you're not stuck running around doing everything. Day of, because the day of, I mean, you can, if it's done right, you should be like shaking hands and kissing babies and talking to people and engaging the crowds and all of those things, and not running around like you don't know where things are. All right, so just make sure that you're organized, and again, use other people to help you do that.
So now we're going to move into, so we have like 5 minutes, but we're going to go over time because this is super important. And I think this is something people are really passionate about. So we're going to move into like a little bit of overtime. If you guys have questions for AJ, please put them in. I'm going to pull and I'll ask her some questions, that if anything you want to know. But okay, so now moving into there's like a lot of like sticky, tricky parts of this. It's not just like, oh, we're going to sell some drinks. Like, can you talk about like, especially right now with COVID, but there are some other obstacles. Can you talk through some of like the things to navigate and consider in this process?
Yeah. So Back to Black was one of those things where I was able to get things up and running because we are in a space that has the programming to do that and the software to do that. So having Serenata already on the Talk HQ platform was perfectly easy. Watching, you know, other pop-ups happen in our space and just sort of copying that was helpful for us. But there's also things that tripped us up. It was obviously trying to figure out how to do this the safest way. It was obviously trying to figure out how to keep people 6 feet apart in distance. It was also, though, figuring out the licensing, figuring out how we could serve to-go cocktails without, like, what if somebody didn't order a brownie? And that was a day of pivot. That was like putting corn in a, putting the fried corn in the bags so that we technically had a food item in there. And so before, like, part of your empowering and mobilization part is actually also going back through and understanding the licensing and the laws and the regulations in your states and in your cities and in your counties, because they are so very different. And so making sure that, you know, you're not doing anything illegal, because the liability then falls on the business that you're working with. Obviously, I'm working on trying to trademark this business and license it as an LLC and then possibly a 501c3, but we don't have that right now. So from an insurance standpoint, you need to make sure that all your bases are covered. So make sure that you're checking your licensing laws, making sure that, like, hey, you're required to buy food or there has to be food with this is a big thing that I totally just overlooked that the entire time until the day of. And I was like, oh, wow, we need to fix this. In terms of making sure that people know what you're doing and that it's 100% transparent, put the numbers out there, especially if you're gonna do this on an individual standpoint and do it as something that's a partnership with a restaurant or with your restaurant or bar. Make sure that you're being as transparent as possible about where the funds are going, and about what is actually being given and to whom, and make sure that the people that, you know, are volunteering and given their time, make sure that that's clear as well. You don't want somebody there that's expecting to be paid and they're not getting paid, or figure out a different incentive programming for them as well for your volunteers. Feed them lunch, you know, give them a bottle, because product, I mean, obviously product is easy to come by. But I think, honestly, making sure that you're staying within the regulations of the CDC, making sure that you're meeting the requirements for all your phase 1, phase 2 regulations, you can actually create really powerful programming, even though it's not the same as it used to be. And it's just something, I mean, you're just gonna have to navigate those. I wish that I had like a list of everybody's, you know,
it's okay.
Licensing laws. It's
every
just,
state, you know, is different. Every county is different. This is a really important slide. And I love that you're putting this in here and you're talking about this. I think that those are actually two separate things too. There's like compliance and making sure what you're doing is compliant, like legally, that it's safety wise, that you're not going to get shut down, that you're not endangering anyone's life, is so important. And then also, and like those answers need to be answered at the very beginning, like before any of this execution happens, is like, and you know, and again, like learn from our mistakes, like learn from the things that we forgot to do, like it's really important. And then also what you're saying about transparency is so vital for the integrity of what you're doing. And like, I would go so far as to like publish the receipt of the money that you donated to the organization, like the thank you letter that from them saying like you donated this. That transparency is so vital. And then the appreciation, what you're saying about appreciation is so important for both the donors, the participants, and the volunteers. Like those two things I think often get forgotten, like in the fun of like, we had a party. And then I cannot tell you how many horror stories I've heard of people not actually donating the money.
Oh, honestly, I don't even want to know.
They forget, it gets lost, it gets stolen, someone leaves it in a car and the car gets broken into, like all that stuff. Like make sure you just go and donate the money immediately. It's so crazy how often that piece of it gets like, I'll do it next week, I'll do it. It's just sitting in an account, I'll do it, I'll handle it. and it doesn't get handled, and there's no transparency about that.
Yeah.
So, or like, we'll thank them tomorrow. Like, thank them as fast as you can, and as much as you can, because then they're going to want to come back.
Exactly. No, 100%. And I mean, it does. Obviously, it gets tricky, right? Because if you're in conjunction with working with your bar, if you're bringing things in through a POS system, if you're bringing things in through an online ordering system, you don't necessarily have access to those funds going straight to a bank, and somebody's got to cut you a check.
Yes. Oh, the check doesn't get cut. That happens all the time.
All the time.
All the time.
All the time. And you've got to wait. Then it's a holiday weekend. Then it's another week that passes. Then it's, you know what I mean?
And then so they forgot. And then they, you know, and then they're like, and then the business closes down. Like, that's happened to people that, like, they just take the money and run. Like, all this stuff can happen. So, like, get the money that day, get it donated.
Get it in the bank. So that, I mean, that kind of sums it up. Unless anybody has, like, actual questions about, like, how we stayed, like, COVID compliant or like whatever. But I think you're right. Like, that last slide is funny that it's at the end, when that is 100% something that at the end of a regular sort of normal, quote unquote, competition or programming, it'd be like, okay, yeah, this is the afterthought kind of thing. Nope. This goes at the top now because of where we are.
And that's the kind of thing you learn when you do these events. Like, no one's event is perfect. I make mistakes every single time I do an event. I make mistakes every time I host a cocktail fights, or we host a Negroni Week program, or, I mean, I learn from everything. So I think it's also like you having this, like, generosity to say, like, here's some things I forgot about, or here's some things that, like, occurred to us later, that, and, like, you always doing a postmortem on the event so that your next event is better, and having that ability to be vulnerable and say, here's where we could have improved, or here's something we did really right. Like, that's also really helpful and great for you to be able to share. Like, both of those things are really vital so that we can support more people.
Yeah, agreed, 100%. 100%.
So I have a question, and we talked about this when you and I talked around allyship and support. So where, like, okay, so there's these events happening where, like, so, right, I'm a cis white woman, how, like, and I want to support these events. Where is, like, how do I find space, or where would it be helpful for me to support? Or, like you said, like, you have allies that came in and helped. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. I think right now what we're seeing is a lot of people who feel helpless, regardless of race, regardless of age, regardless of how they identify themselves. A lot of people are finding themselves in a situation where they want to help, but, like, this is verbatim from what people have said to me, is that they don't think that they can lead this conversation. They don't think that they can lead this push. It wouldn't be right for a cis, het, white, whatever, to want to push this initiative. But then on the flip side of it, if they don't, who is? Right? If you don't do this, and that goes back to that first question that we talked about on one of the first slides. Why is it important that you do it? If you don't do it, then who will? All right? So I'm all for it as long as it's honest. And I don't think that anybody should shy away from wanting to push the conversation and to push the mission forward. However, there is a part where you need to understand where you stand in that, right? You can't speak for other people, but you can definitely force action in their behalf. So if you want to, or if you feel like you can't say something, the best thing to do is to grab onto the people around you and let them know, like, hey, I'm here. I'd love to do something about this. Let's do this. And not go with the question of, well, what do you want to do about this? You obviously are the one that's upset about it. So let's create some action plans and putting those ideas into the pot, because it only helps if we can all bring our voices and our minds together to create and force change and progress and move things forward. So don't ever be afraid to use your voice. It's not that, you know, this isn't a time for us not to hear everybody's voices. It's just that the voices that we weren't hearing are a lot louder now, and they deserve to be, because they've been silenced for so long. That doesn't mean that your voice and your opinions and your feelings don't count. right? So this particular, these missions and these programs and all that, like everybody seems so comfortable about like donating money to Planned Parenthood and donating money to these causes and women's funds and
the ACLU or the
ACLU and like food banks and things like that, because they are very broad. They are very, very broad, and that's understood. But when it comes to exact specific causes to help specific people start to back away. They start to tiptoe. They start to dance around the problems and say, wow, that's bad. But then just stay there on the outside circle saying that's bad instead of linking together and figuring out how to knock that down. And I want those conversations to keep happening. It is kind of a double-edged sword right now, right? You have a lot of people asking, hey, is this politically correct? Or hey, is this offensive? Or hey, is this statement exactly what it should be? And you go, okay, yeah, I mean, that's fine. I'll take that on in a way. But I think at the end of the day, if you feel that it's wrong, then it's wrong. There's no need to question that. So if you see something happening, you should say something. And if you want to do something, go out there and do it. But get you a set of people that can help you accomplish it.
Yeah, and I'm learning too, like my voice or your voice doesn't need to be your voice, like your words. Like there's a difference between your words and your voice.
Yeah.
And like your voice can be used to amplify or like the words of other people or the message of other people. And 100%. So I think like that has been so helpful for me in like turning that in my brain, because so often I'm so attached to my voice as like my words, like but they're not the same thing. And so not. I think like what you're saying, it's important that people get involved and that they reach out and they say, hey, this is really important. And I want to make sure that everyone's included and I can help and I can support. So that's really helpful feedback. And I appreciate it. Cause I often find myself in this space of like you said, like I'm really comfortable in certain spaces doing like supporting not-for-profits. Like I'm really comfortable and like aggressively so at times. They're like we're supporting missions. And then there's a space where I was like, oh, am I not supposed to speak up here? Or am I not supposed to be involved in this? And I think what you're saying is like, everyone needs to be involved in this. And this
Everybody.
is really important.
Yeah.
This is more my problem. This is actually my problem.
No, and that's fair. I mean, with DMV Black Restaurant, we got a lot of flack for having allied restaurants that aren't Black-owned restaurants. And that's going to be a thing. And I understand that, but are they necessarily going to be the ones that are like highlighted on the news and like all these? Not necessarily, no. But again, actions speak louder than words. There are businesses and business owners that are saying, we recognize that there is a problem. We support this mission. And you can support this mission by attaching us to you and you being attached to us. That shows solidarity in a much larger scale. And yes, super corny, actions speak louder than words, but it is 100% true. And you don't have to be afraid of being in the space. Just respect the space that you're in.
Yeah, I love that. And that we talked a little bit, and I'm really passionate about this idea of sharing your values and making your values really known. And when you make your values known, the more marginalized people in your life that might be in some way connected to those values, if you make those values clear, they feel safer and more comfortable around you.
Yeah.
Whether it's about sexual assault and your intolerance for it, or your welcoming of people from all backgrounds and spaces in the world, or specifically saying the people that you recognize have been marginalized and that you welcome them in and you are working on making a safe space for them in the world, they feel safer around you. They feel more comfortable. Yeah. So rather than coming back later and saying like, oh no, I believe in that, coming forward and saying, this is something we really believe in.
Yeah.
Is so key. And I think events like what you put on and what you do, put that so front, like literally front and center, like it's on your shirt.
Yeah, just be unapologetic. 100% unapologetic.
Yeah.
This is where you don't have to say, I'm sorry. I mean, the Black condition, the brown condition, marginalized people's condition is that if we are passive, we will be accepted. And that is not the case. It's not the case. So if you got to scream it, if you got to put it on the front of your gear, if you got whatever you need to do to just yell it at the top of your lungs, again, maybe not using your full voice, but using, the metaphorical voice, then do it, because we need it.
I can't tell you how many like recently like really strong, powerful Black women have said like have kind of started to talk and then they're like, oh, sorry. And they take a beat and they're like, actually, I'm not sorry. And they just start going. And it's been so great because I'm watching being like, don't be sorry. There's no sorry. Like, there's no sorry. I love it. Like, I love what you're saying. This is so cool. Yeah. Okay, so we could talk forever, and I just enjoy you so much, and also I want to know what it's like growing up with your mom being like the lead counsel for. That's going to be like, I'm going to do an interview with you about that because holy camoli, like what a cool role. I'm assuming like what a cool role model and a home to grow. Anyway, okay, so so just to summarize this idea, what you're saying, hearing you talk about like the importance of planning, of bringing people on to help you. Of creating a world and an identity for your event, of enrolling lots of help, of being very organized, and then making sure that you execute something really well and provide a quality product, and then thanking everyone and being transparent in the end of it. Sort of how I'm seeing it wrap up, which is a whole lot of stuff. This is not something you learn the first time you do it, and you definitely learn as you go. Do you have any like last pieces of advice for anybody looking to do this kind of work, especially people who may not have felt comfortable putting their voices forward before?
Yeah, actually, your ideas are valid, right? And if you have a thought, if you have a vision, 100% put it down on paper. But also, once you've created an idea in that way, I think like Jill Scott kind of said it the best, right? Like once you've thought about it, it doesn't belong to you anymore. It needs to be out there. You need to give this because you never know who you could be helping. So don't just stop at, hey, this is good enough, or maybe I should just stop here. The farthest you can reach for it. Because you never know who's going to want to be involved or get involved. You never know what you can do if you just put it out there. And again, be unapologetic about it. Subconsciously, unconsciously, people will support as long as it's a genuine cause.
So be brave.
Yes.
And like power through that imposter syndrome, power through that fear that you don't know what you're doing, get people to help you, be like power through that fear of asking someone to help you or like that embarrassment, and get out there. Any like practical, just technical, like here's what I always forget and here's just something to remember, learn from my mistakes, piece of advice?
It's the one that always trips me up. You can ask anybody who like knows me. Ask for help. Oh my God, ask for help. This is not a solo thing. As much as like, oh, you founded this, it came from my brain. Okay, cool. I did not do this by myself. I don't do anything by myself because I can't, because I don't know everything. So do not be afraid to just ask people for the things that you need, because they won't happen. None of this will happen unless you ask for help. None of it. That is the only practical advice that I have, other than just make sure your product is good. Make it good. Make it like care about it as if you were selling it and making your own money. That one. But ask for help.
And then tell me, like, just to wrap up, I haven't gotten any questions in the question sheet. So either it's frozen on my computer or we've like thoroughly covered this topic. But to ask you also, I have two questions. So my first question is, are you available if people want to reach out with questions around this or support around this? Like, are you available for that? Or would you rather them like go somewhere else?
No, 100%.
Okay.
Come to me. We will talk. We will talk for hours, right?
Great.
It should be on the last slide there. Yeah. That's my email there. You can always email me there. You can also DM me. I'm more responsive on social media now. So any one of those three IG platforms, White Plates, Black Faces is my personal one. Back to Black _pop-up DC obviously is for the pop-up. DMV BRW is for DMV Black Restaurant Week. If you want to partner, if you have questions, if I didn't touch on anything, is on something today. If you just want to say, hey, I didn't enjoy something, or hey, I think what you're doing is great. It doesn't matter. It's open for everybody. I'm working on being a lot more accessible in that way to people that I don't know, and I'd love to see more people using their voices and their platforms to push change. So, you know, whatever you need, I'm here.
I will say, like, if you are going to reach out to AJ, or if you're going to reach out to me, like, come with some ideas, come with it kind of built out, or know what you don't have built out that you're looking for support. If you just call me and say, I want to do something, that's a different phone call. And it will send you, I will send you back to the starting point, and I will give you the things I need. But like, I just went over that, and AJ just went over that so beautifully in this session. So please, like, work on that why, work on that how, yeah. and then I can help you. And I don't know if you feel the same way, but like, I find people come to me and they're like, I just want to pick your brain, which is fine. And I usually then have to say, I think your question is this, but it's so much more powerful if you just come to me with the question and you show me that you've done the work to prep for your time with me.
Yep.
So that would be my request. And I would like to, like, extend that if like, to you, because you're a busy woman and you got stuff going on, and you're not really here to, like, help someone slog through necessarily, unless that's really, like, they really need help figuring that out. But there's a lot of work people can do before they call you. If they're looking for mentorship, if they're looking for advocacy, if they're looking for someone who's going to sponsor them. I loved Ashton Berry did a whole session on this the other day, and I was like, thank you for saying this. So bring some of that work and do some of that stuff that AJ so beautifully put together before you show up. My last question for you is, what is next for you?
Next for me?
Like, next for you in terms of, like, your activism, your projects, your pop-ups, like, what's next in line that you're excited about?
So Back to Black pop-up, I did not release the date this morning because I was waiting for right now. So we are doing our second pop-up, August 1st and 2nd. We are launching it. Boom, boom. New storytellers, new cocktails, different location. So we're doing it at Roy Boy Shaw this go round. Pickups are still going to be 1 to 4. Information will be all up on our IG, and we also just bought our domain name, so the website should be up in the next week or so. Yeah, wheels turning, right?
Wheels turn. You got it. You had one proof of concept, and now you're going to make it happen. It's great.
Now we're going to make it happen. So that is coming up. We're working towards that. D&B Black Restaurant Week is coming up in November. I am holding my yearly cocktail competition for the RR Bowie Mixologists Club. I'm figuring out how to do that virtually. Again, I'm keeping my sort of ear to the ground, making sure that from a phase standpoint, we're staying safe and things like that. It's got to be a virtual competition. It's got to be a virtual competition. And then outside of that, man, I'm here every day at Serenata, pumping these cocktails out. I do cocktail classes every Friday. You can do personal classes Wednesday, Thursday, or Sunday. And I'm always here. I'm here for an ear. I'm here to taste your cocktails. I want to hear your ideas. But yes, come with some formulation. But that's really where I'm at right now, man. It's keeping my business thriving. It's staying excited. It's keeping my staff happy. It's just, you know, it's the everyday. We're coming out of the trenches right now. So we're moving.
And if people watching this don't live in the DMV, DC, Maryland, Virginia, if they don't live in that area, but they want to support what you're doing, like, could they order a cocktail and have that, like just basically, like, order a cocktail they can't ever pick up, or, like, can they order it for a friend, or could they, like, is there some way we could support? We can follow you on Instagram for sure. Is there any way we can support if we're not in town?
Well, we definitely do a lot of pay it forwards. Our Toast online ordering system, if you go to our website, www.serenatadc.com, if you click the Toast ordering website, all of our stuff is there. You can order things. And what I've also started doing is putting in orders for myself, or asking people if they do want to pay things forward to also order food items. on there, because when I leave here from work, I can head down to the parks and distribute food to homeless people as well. So if you are gonna pay it forward, like, I appreciate that. Like, you can buy your friend a cocktail, or buy somebody in town a cocktail, or I can gift that. We've had people gift cocktail classes to people,
That's so cool.
as a way of just, you know, creating community, or giving it to a bartender who may not have the $65, $75 a week to be on the class. But if you could add a food item in there, that would be fantastic, because then we can like do a salad or give one of our like avocado toasts out, you know, every day. And it's little, it's so small, but you know, as long as the table's growing longer, it's that next person, you know, that you can help, that will always make it.
I love that. Thank you for your time today, for all your work putting together that great presentation, for all the work that you're doing out in the world, and for your community, both the cocktail community, the Black community, like all of it, the DMV, everything, like all of your very multi things are really incredible. You're an inspiration. And I'm really excited to see what you do next and where you go. And please keep in touch. And thank you for being part of this. Thank you everyone for listening today, for chiming in, for all your time and your attention. We are sponsoring every Tuesday and Thursday, so you'll see some more really fun content from Campari America coming up. We got some fun stuff next week. I'm really looking forward to it. We have jungle bartending next week, which is going to be very fun. I don't even know what that means. And we will be back with you. We are always looking to expand our community and our network and make sure that we have a really diverse, inclusive audience of people who are part of our community in Campari. So if you would like to sign up for the Campari newsletter, please just go to my Ann Louise, actually now I'm Campari and Soda. So you can find me on my Instagram at Campari and Soda, and there's a link to our newsletter in my website thing, clicky thing, like website and link in profile, and sign up for that. We'd love to be in touch via email, and we can keep you abreast of everything we're doing in the Campari community. Thank you, AJ. I will see you soon. As soon as I'm back in DC, I'm gonna like hug you.
I gotta get back to the West Coast, yo.
Oh, and then you come out here. Come on out. You are welcome.
I lived in LA for 8 years, so like, yo, I gotta get back. Get back.
Thank you to Campari America. Thank you to the Campari Academy. Thank you, Portland Cocktail Week, for your incredible support and technical skills. Leo is on here, who's been overseeing our whole program. Thank you, Leo. You're wonderful, and the whole team at Lush Life. We'll be back with you in a couple days. Thank you so much.